Good morning, y'all, and welcome back to the channel. It's actually a great morning for us, but we have some bad news to share with you. You can tell by the title and the thumbnail of this video that things are not exactly going our way with the RV.
Yes, unfortunately, we've exhausted all of our options at this point, and it's not looking great for us and our RV travel adventures.
So let's bring you up to date on what's been going on since our last video. We recently reached out for help. We asked everyone on YouTube that was watching us if they had any suggestions or owned a shop and could help us fix our frame without having to go through the manufacturers or the dealers to get it done. And that turned out to probably be the worst idea you could ever do, especially on YouTube or social media. Why is that, Alicia?
Well, it attracted something we never saw coming, or something that we think we attracted, which was scammers.
We had tons of people reaching out to us wanting to help us with our RV, but they didn't actually want to help us at all. They wanted to scam us out of money.
It seems that the business of collecting insurance claims is thriving, and there are a lot of people who want you to contact your insurance so that they can collect on that money.
We didn't just have one, we had a inbox full of companies who said, we will help you out, we'll get everything taken care of. The first thing they wanted to know was had we contacted our insurance company, and if we had, give them the claim number and they will handle the rest. We had one guy say, I'll have this thing totaled out by the end of the week. Just give me the claim number.
There were a lot of people who said, do not contact your insurance company. Let us contact them on your behalf because we can ensure that it gets totaled, which just kind of makes you cringe a little. Like, are we at that point yet? And what are you saying to get them totaled?
And they all had one thing in common. We had to act quickly. We had to get them the insurance claim right away, ASAP. We had several that offered to fly from wherever they are to our location here. They would do an inspection and get the paperwork done, and it would be totaled as soon as they turned in the claims. We even asked the question like, well, what if we don't want it totaled? What if we want to actually fix it? Can we go ahead and fix it? All of them didn't even want to talk about what it would take to fix it. They wanted to get the claim number and get this moving forward and get it totaled out.
If it looks like a scam, smells like a scam, it's probably a scam. We're not in the business of scamming our insurance company. That's just not who we are. And so I think we've decided we're not pursuing that route.
Things usually went pretty well in these conversations until I started asking questions like, okay, well, let's talk about fixing it. I understand how this works. You inspect it, you tell the insurance company what it's going to take to fix it. They'll pay you to fix it, and we'll have our RV back ready to go down the road. But what if it gets totaled? I asked the question, if they total it out, how do you get paid, Mr. Insurance Scammer Guy? And he said, well, there's fees and things that we'll take off the top, and you'll get the rest. And I said, so right now you're looking to total an RV out so that you can take a piece of the pie off the top of our insurance claim and then move on without doing any actual work.
So that led us to just contacting the insurance company on our own. We knew we would have to do this at some point. We were just waiting to see if we needed to go to that or if we were just going to pay out of our pocket to get this fixed. So we contacted the insurance company.
And it actually went pretty smooth at first. I talked to 3 people in the first 30 minutes, and there was actually an adjuster and an inspector assigned to us. And since we had the video already available on YouTube, we sent them that video. They took one look at it, and guess what they said?
Denied.
The reason they denied it is because they asked us what was the accident that caused all these problems. I simply said there was no accident because we were just using it as designed. And that's the reason it was denied, because there was no incident that caused the damage on the frame. They said they do not cover manufacturer defects or normal wear and tear. But if we were in an accident, then they would cover the frame.
Which begs the question, how are companies, not only the people who have reached out to us, but also in our initial email with Grand Design, how are they getting insurance to cover these things?
Because if there was an accident, you would think the truck would also be damaged because, you know, it was in front of the RV while towing it. So how did the truck make it down the road and not have a damaged frame, but the RV couldn't make it down the road without damaging its frame?
We did have some people say, oh, make sure when you call the insurance company, you tell them, oh, I hit a pothole or I hit an expansion joint and I looked back and I saw the RV was kind of moving and things like that. It just doesn't feel truthful. I mean, I'm sure that those things contributed to it, but we couldn't call the insurance company and say that, because in our opinion, that's insurance fraud.
And I'm sure I can't say the words directly in the same sentence, but Grand Design, if you're writing things a certain way to get someone else to pay for your deficient frames, put two and two together. We know what you're doing and we know what everyone else is doing. You're making insurance companies pay for a problem that you sold people, and that's the reason why no one can afford insurance, and that's the reason why insurance companies are denying things left and right, because you're making them pay for things that aren't accidents or acts of nature.
Sure, we could have called them and said those words to make them pay for the claim, but it just didn't feel right in our heart, because at the end of the day, all it's going to do is increase premiums for every RVer out there, and that just doesn't feel right.
So that leaves us with, we still have a broken RV, insurance has denied us, and everyone that's reached out to us actually has no interest in fixing it. They just want to get a piece of the insurance money while the getting's good. So let's update you on some other things that have been going on since we've made our video about the frame flex.
As we've previously mentioned, if you do any type of search on YouTube and type in the words frame flex, frame failure, any of that, you're gonna get a ton of results, because it seems to be the hot topic at the moment.
Yes, it is the hot topic, and there is quite a few people out there making videos about frame flex. They don't actually have frame flex in their life. They're just talking about it because it's the topic right now of the month that gets all the views. And the biggest one lately is, it's all about what are we actually calling it? There's so many people calling it frame flex, calling it frame failure. It's just a word we're using to describe what's going on. I don't care what you call it. The frame is broken and it's not going back to the way it was. Frame failure, frame broken. Also, I don't care about what is actually broken. When I hook it to my truck and the pin box points to the sky, it could be the upper deck, it could be the actual main frame, it could be the aluminum framed walls, it could be missing lag bolts, broken lag bolts. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what's broken. The frame's broken, the wall's broken, something on the RV is broken, and it's not fit for purpose or to do its job that it was designed to do.
And in any case, it looks like the manufacturers aren't building these rigs the way they're meant to be built. Like, we've seen so many comments and so many videos where lag bolts are supposed to be 1/2 inch and they're 3/8. They're supposed to be 5 lag bolts and there's 3 or 2, or some are broken. Like, at what point do we hold the manufacturers responsible for the poor workmanship that they're causing? Because these rigs aren't cheap. They're selling them to us at the highest price they've ever sold RVs, and we're just accepting of it. We have to cut the cord and say, you're responsible.
Another big touchy subject about all this is everyone wants to say it's Lippert's fault. Sure, Lippert builds the frames, and I will give you, maybe the welds are not the greatest on the frames they build. But at the end of the day, Lippert is building the frame to the spec Grand Design ordered. So it doesn't matter what Lippert builds, it comes back to Grand Design made the choice to buy a frame at a certain price point that they build their rigs on. And I will give you one small piece of ammunition, Grand Design. I understand why you do what you do. Because if you built these frames to be able to go down the highways and support the loads they do support, you couldn't sell them to us, because we'd all need semi trucks to move them, because that's how heavy they would have to be.
If you're contracting out for Lippert to build your frames, that's all good and well. If they aren't welding them great, or they're not doing them to what you designed, it's on you to inspect every frame that comes back to your shop to have the RV built on it. That is your responsibility if you contract out that piece of the pie. At what point do you say, maybe we should build them smaller so that we can build them more sturdy? Bigger is not always better.
After this whole ordeal with the RVs, I'm starting to think that they shouldn't make an RV over about a 14,000 gross vehicle weight rating, because anything above that, you start to lighten it up so much that it's not capable of actually surviving full-time use on the road. Sure, it's nice to have the 44-foot, huge, massive, 20,000 pound toy hauler, but if it doesn't survive going down the road, what's the point of having it?
Or if you can only put a 3-year warranty on your frame, like the whole foundation of the unit, just stop. Like, this obviously isn't your area of expertise. Like, condense it, make it strong, make it sturdy. The consumer will appreciate it, because at the end of the day, they won't have X, Y, and Z broken that they're responsible for, and you'd probably have repeat customers.
One of the biggest comments we got about our frame is we need to take it to the affinity group up in Indiana, and we've heard nothing but amazing things about them, and they've always been top notch. We don't have any experience with them, but apparently all of our viewers and the whole internet loves them.
So we just wanted to make sure that we say their name in this video, because if you're experiencing frame flex and either you're gonna have insurance cover it or you're gonna pay out of pocket to have it fixed, I think if you can get your rig to an Affinity RV up in Indiana, I think you'd have a positive experience, because we have heard nothing but great things from probably 50 to 100 people that have taken their rig there. So we just wanted to give them a shout out, but it also begs the question, why are we having to get frames fixed in the first place?
Even though they may be great at their job, we think they should only be in business when it comes to an accident or an incident that requires the frame be repaired because it was in a situation. When an RV is being used for normal use and the frame breaks, it shouldn't have to go to a special shop that you have to pay out of pocket to fix. It should have to go there if Grand Design is going to pay for it, or any other manufacturer going to pay for it. But at the end of the day, these frames should not be breaking under normal use. Do you guys remember Tom? Yeah, everyone remembers Tom. Well, in the last video, we called Tom out big time, and he had no things to say because you guys were waiting for him to show up. And you know what? Tom decided to sit this one out. He didn't show up and make any comment in the last video that we called him out about being a Tom. What was he up to, Alicia?
Well, we thought maybe he got the hint that, like, if you don't agree with what we're saying and you don't want to be a part of this discussion, just see yourself out. Unfortunately, we were very, very wrong. Tom was hard at work.
Guess what Tom did? Tom went and took it upon himself to write emails to every one of our sponsors trying to get us canceled. He told them we were bullies. Actually, I'm gonna read his email out. This is what Tom had to say to one of our sponsors. You should take a very close look at your relationship with the YouTube channel Paving New Paths. These people are genuine bullies. Do you really want to have your products advertised with people that are so negative against products they use? If they have one minor problem with your product, they will do everything they can to possibly destroy your brand. It does not matter to them, whatever it is. If it's their fault, they will damage your brand. You are probably getting negative exposure because of your relationship with these people. Actually, Tom, we're not doing anything negative with our sponsors, because that's how sponsorships work. We have a relationship with them, and if we have problems, we talk about them and we resolve them. We actually don't have a relationship with Grand Design. We tried to have one, and they didn't want to be a part of it. That's why you're seeing these videos. Also, Tom, you keep saying that you're not an employee or an affiliate of Grand Design, but you sure are going way out of your way to discredit us, and now you're trying to take our money away. You're trying to take food out of our children's mouth.
What kind of person goes to our sponsors to say this? Like, if you have a problem with what we're doing or what we're saying, and by the way, we in no way feel like we're bullying you. If anything, like, you came to us with huge aggression, and you went onto other channels with huge aggression about us. So if anyone's the bully, let's take a look at the mirror and see who's really bullying who here. But to take the time to contact our sponsors and our partners and try to have them cancel us is insane to me. Like, what if this was our only means of money and then we can't feed our babies? Have you ever thought about that? Like, what you're doing is not okay. This cancel culture we live in, it's gotta stop.
That's right, Tom. It's gotta stop. And you keep saying you're not affiliated with Grand Design anyway, but I can go on every video on YouTube, and guess who I see? I see Tom. Tom is busy doing the same thing, not only to us, but to anyone who talks negatively about Grand Design and the words frame flex. He will defend them to the end. And here's the funny thing. If you're not actually an employee or an affiliate of Grand Design, you need to take a look in the mirror, because you're spending an awful lot of time letting people on YouTube hurt your feelings.
Right, there's a way to support a company and to think they're not in the wrong. There's plenty of people on our channel and in our comments that don't feel Grand Design or Lippert are at fault here because we are the second owner or we're out of warranty. That's fine, we can have discussions about that. It's when you take it to that next level and you're just trying to really dig at us that it becomes a case of true bullying. And it's not okay for adults to treat other adults like that. Like, have a constructive conversation with someone if you don't agree with what they're saying, and then choose to move along and go about your life. Like, don't keep trying to find ways to jab at us.
If you actually had a problem with us and the frame, we'd be talking about us and the frame, but instead you're just doing whatever you can to tear us down and prove us wrong and discredit anything we say, because that's the world we live in. Instead of actually resolving the problems and talking about the elephant in the room, let's just point out all the things we think you're doing wrong, and you'll forget about what's actually going on. And now let's go back to the old Grand Design Facebook group censorships again. She was real busy at work this last video. Several of y'all are no longer parts of Facebook groups because y'all shared it and she removed it immediately. We also found some other Facebook groups who are not owned by Grand Design, which she went in there and made threats to them. There was one where this guy, he's a pretty known YouTuber, Facebook guy, where he took screenshots of videos of a tour of Grand Design's factory, and he zoomed in and showed the frames, he showed the roofs, he showed everything. And she came in there and told him he had to take those down because he wasn't authorized to share those pictures, and he wasn't authorized to be filming those tour videos. And when he replied with, "These are actually your videos off your channel and from ambassador channels that you let give these tours," she started crawfishing like crazy, going, "Oh, we'll have to check and make sure that's okay." Did you just find out that we can take screenshots of our computer screens? And guess what? When you let them come in with the fancy camera and they have 4K, we can really zoom in and see how amazing those frames are. So it's hilarious that when you can control the group, you can write the narrative, but when you can't control the group, you try to bully and pressure people to take things down so you can help control the narrative. Didn't work out for you this time, did it though? Because we all saw those frames. And now to one of the greatest parts of this video, at least for me it is, because guess what? It's RV show season, and we've been getting so many emails and pictures of people wearing "Make RVs Great Again" and "Make Frames Great Again" in front of the Grand Design booths. And so far, it's been pretty awesome, and the story is always the same.
The story is always the same, no matter who shares it. They walk up wearing their shirt, and the suits turn around and walk away and have nothing else to say.
If you walk up to a Grand Design booth wearing one of these shirts, you're guaranteed to not be bothered. So if you want to go look at RVs and no one talk to you, head over to pavingnewpaths.com and get yourself a "Make RVs Great Again" or "Make Frames Great Again" shirt, and you will have the entire display to yourself, because guarantee you, no one will talk to you if you're wearing this shirt. And if you bring up the word "Frame Flex," they will actually leave the building, I think. I think they just leave the building.
I'm not in the business to tell you how to run your company, but here's what I would do if I was Grand Design or any other manufacturer that is running from these shirts, like literally turning their back and running from these customers. So if I was a company that sold RVs and I saw someone wearing this shirt, I would know that they have valid concerns about the frame. I would welcome that person in and say, "Let me show you my robust design. Let me show you how we've corrected these wrongs. Let me show you that this rig is safe." I certainly wouldn't turn my back and run. Like, what is that saying about your product? Also, for people who aren't wearing the shirts, we have stories of them inquiring about things about the RVs, what's changed, things like that. Then they bring up, "Well, what about your frames?" And they're also getting walked away from. Like, if you can't address the elephant in the room confidently, you have no business selling RVs.
The fact that they walk away from people that are wearing this shirt means that Grand Design is very aware of all these videos we making, and they're very aware of our concerns, and that means they're very aware of all your concerns and all the comments and the people who are saying they need answers on their frames, because it's not just us. It's a whole industry. It's a whole group of people who bought the dream of these RVs to live and travel full time, and who are also having broken frames. So Grand Design, pay attention. Instead of running from the problem, let's make it better. Let's make RVs great again.
Confidently share with your customers or potential customers what you're doing differently and why they can feel safe in your rigs. Like, it's not that hard. Just show them, if you've got the proof in the pudding that this is not your problem, that this is not your fault, that this is happening, show them. Like, bring a rig to the RV show that isn't completed. Just bring the frame and show them. Address the elephant in the room to show them they are safe in your rig.
So where does that leave us in our broken RV? Well, we have a few options, but most of them involve no more travel.
And that's the part that is the bad news of all this. Yes, it's bad that the insurance denied us. We could pay to fix it on our own, but it's just sad coming to the reality that our full-time travels may be over.
We've been talking about it for weeks, but now that we're saying on camera, it's kind of real because now you guys know about it. Now you know what we've been dealing with. Most likely, we will never travel full-time on the road, at least in that RV, ever again. And hear me out. It's because there's so many options and what things to do. Like, we could actually afford to fix this, but if we paid to get it fixed, we would have no money left to actually go traveling. So what's the point of having the RV fixed if now we have no money left to go traveling?
And getting it fixed doesn't necessarily solve the problem, at least not for my mom heart. Getting it fixed doesn't necessarily fix the problem. Like, you've caused a valid concern in my heart that my kids and my family are no longer safe pulling this unit down the road. It doesn't matter if we get it fixed and everyone says it's okay. Like, I'm still always going to hold on to that doubt of what if it breaks while we're on the road, or what if it causes an accident and the person next to us driving is affected by a decision we made. In my heart, I can never take that rig on the road again.
And that's mostly because our inbox is full of people who had it fixed, and guess what? It's not fixed. It either broke again in the same spot, or they fixed it good enough that it broke somewhere else on the rig. So everyone who had upper frame flex or upper deck flex, now they're having problems with the area between the upper deck and the front axles or over the axles. So what happens is they fix the broken part and they move the problem to the next weakest part. So fixing it is not a solution. The real solution is, let's start building frames good enough from the beginning that you don't have to fix them.
So since fixing it doesn't necessarily fix the true problem, which is the frame, we have a couple of options. And the first thing we thought about is, because we're in Texas, we love lake life, we thought maybe we'll just move it to a lake lot and just let it sit there. That way it doesn't have to travel anymore. We don't have to pay the extensive repair fees to get the frame fixed. We could just use it as a weekend getaway, or as, you know, go there for a week in the summer or things like that. So that was our first option.
Our second option is, obviously, I'm working, so when we get enough money, we look at getting it fixed locally. And once it's fixed, we've decided we would never ever use it the way we used it before. This would never be a full-time, long travel rig. We would become weekend warriors, but we'd probably never leave the state of Texas with it, because I don't feel comfortable pulling this thing long distance anymore. Like, sure, we'd go to the lake or go to Big Bend for the weekend or the week and come back, but we would never long-term, big-time travel in this rig again, even if we got it fixed.
This is a huge, massive rig. This was our home. That's why we chose such a big, massive rig, because we have a big family and we didn't want to feel cramped. If we're only weekending or going for a week here and there throughout the year, I don't think that this is the rig that we would do it in. Like, we would get something a lot smaller so that maybe we could stay inside of national parks. If we're only going to be there 3, 4, 5 days, then I think we would want something a lot smaller, because it's not our full-time home.
Something this big is not something you go in for the weekend. I'm not gonna pack this thing up, hook it up, drive down the road for a 3-day weekend only to pack it back up and come back home. When you have something this big, you want to be in it full-time. You want to make sure that every moment you have in it is used properly. And a weekend trip and a rig this big, all you would do is be setting up and then start tearing it down and time to go back home.
I mean, we've seen quite a few people in campgrounds that have rigs as big as ours that it's quite obvious that they're using it for the weekend or for the week. And by the time they get it set up, they have about 8 to 12 hours to enjoy their stay, if they're only staying for a 3-day weekend. And then it's time to start breaking things down. And it just seems like a lot of work to do that in. Like, we would just get something a lot smaller if that's the route we chose to go.
And this brings us to our last option, and the option that we're still throwing around the idea of, but maybe it's time to put this rig up for sale. as is.
So heartbreaking to hear that out loud, but I don't know. I think that's the point that we're at, but that's why we're also bringing this to you, because we want to know what you would do if you were in our situation. Would you fix it and continue traveling as if nothing happened? Would you use it as a weekend getaway, just parked and it never move again? Would you fix it and just go on little weekend trips? Or would you sell it for sale as is?
I know what you're saying. You just told us all these really bad things about this RV. Why would you try to sell it? Well, if someone was going to be stationary somewhere, we would bring it to you. It's an amazing RV as long as it doesn't move. Actually, most of our problems come from it moving, but if you didn't move it, the thing's actually a great RV. Just not really designed to go down the road very much.
And if we knew that we had plenty of time to go enjoy it on the weekends and go for a week here and there, I think we would really seriously consider keeping it, because it is so nice and we could bring family and we could have great weekend getaways. But for the cost of maintaining it, to only use it a weekend here and there, it just financially doesn't make much sense, I don't think.
The reason we're thinking about selling it is because despite the frame being broken, we're going to sell it at a price that is very, very low. A price that if someone wanted to buy it and they wanted to use it stationary, they would be happy with the purchase. But also a price where if you are a shop or someone who wants to fix it, you could buy this, fix it, and still make money on it. Or you could buy it, fix it, and use it yourself. But it's sold as is. You know you're buying it broken. It's got some things going on with it because the frame obviously is not in great shape. But that's where we're at. Either we move it to a lake and let it die there because it'll never move again, or we see if someone else with more skills or more time or a business that could benefit from this wants to take it and use it for themselves, or sell it if that's what they want to do with it.
And we're certainly not putting it for sale to make a profit. Like, literally it will be whatever we owe on it, which we've talked about. We haven't called for the payoff, but it's probably what, like $48,000-$50,000 is probably what we owe on it at this point. So it's not to sell it to make more money or any of that. It's just kind of to sell it to wash our hands of it, which is so hard to say, but I think it's the point of where we're at right now.
You like that, Grand Design? You made us give up our dream because you wouldn't fix our RV. We would rather wash our hands of our RV than deal with Grand Design or any of the negativity that's come our way because we talked about frame flex.
So that brings us back to, we're in a headspace where there's a lot going on. Like, we're receiving a lot of information right now, either through insurance, through these people contacting us. So we want to make sure that the decision we're making is a sound decision. So that's why we're reaching out to you guys, because we want to truly know, what would you do if you were in our position? It was never our intention to travel full-time forever. In all honesty, I think we've touched on this in the channel. We were going to do it for 1, maybe 2 years. Because of YouTube, we've been able to extend that to 3 years and not deplete our savings completely. But if you were in our position, like, what would you do? That's the honest question that we want to know.
So anyway, guys, while you tell us what you would do, thanks for watching. We love you, and we'll see you in the next one.